You ever have one of those neighbors who just can't mind their own business? The kind who thinks a clipboard and a bad haircut give them the power of law enforcement? Yeah, that's Karen, our local HOA president, part-time gossip, columnist, and full-time pain in the neck. I swear this woman could spot a violation faster than a hawk spots roadkill. One time she fined a guy for having a non-regulation wind chime because it was too spiritual. I wish I were joking. Anyway, I live in a quiet suburban neighborhood that used to be peaceful until Karen decided it was her personal kingdom. And unfortunately for me, my little two-car garage somehow became her latest obsession. I had just reorganized it, built a couple of sturdy metal shelves, and stacked a few boxes neatly inside. You know, normal human activity. Apparently, Karen thought it looked like a commercial storage facility. She sent me a letter so long it could have been a novel. Illegal storage usage, potential business operation, and my favorite, visual pollution. Seriously, who says visual pollution about a closed garage? I tried to be nice at first. I emailed her back, politely explaining that it was my personal stuff, camping gear, tools, holiday decorations. Nothing suspicious. But Karen didn't care about logic. She cared about control. The next day she marched up my driveway with her little measuring tape, her phone camera, and that smug HOA badge she probably printed at home. She started taking pictures of my closed garage door. Not even open. Just the door. I asked what she was doing and she said, gathering evidence. Evidence of what? My audacity to own boxes. The best part, she called the county code enforcement office. Yep. She reported me for operating an illegal storage business out of my garage. You can imagine the look on the inspector's face when he showed up. The guy was professional, clipboard in hand, but the confusion was written all over him. He asked, "Sir, are you renting storage units from your home?" I blinked and said, "Unless you count my Christmas lights." No. He chuckled, looked around and said, "This is the cleanest garage I've seen all week." Turns out, Karen had sent the county a formal complaint packet, photos, typed statements, even a hand-drawn map of my property showing illegal traffic routes. She literally drew stick figures of imaginary customers parking in my driveway. The inspector told me, "I've seen some wild HOA cases, but this might be the pettiest." I offered him a soda. He laughed and closed the case on the spot, but not before muttering, "Honestly, we might need to look into her instead." That comment got my curiosity going. I wasn't planning revenge yet, but I was curious what Karen was hiding behind all that rule enforcement energy. You don't go that hard on other people unless you've got skeletons of your own, right? And boy, did she. About a week later, I noticed so meeting odd. Karen's house was suddenly full of new people. Different cars every weekend, luggage rolling in, kids playing in her backyard who clearly didn't belong to anyone in the neighborhood. I thought maybe her relatives were visiting. But then I saw a couple dragging suitcases at midnight, whispering directions from their phones. That's when it clicked. Airbnb. Now, in our HOA, short-term rentals are banned. Karen herself had written the rule. She'd lectured the entire community about preserving neighborhood integrity and protecting property values. So the idea that she was secretly renting out HOA property or her house was almost too perfect. But before I jumped to conclusions, I needed proof. Because if I was going down, I was taking her with me. So I started watching. Not in a creepy way, just casually observing. Every Friday new people would show up. Every Sunday they'd leave with suitcases. And once I saw a cleaning crew arrive right after. When I passed by, I could hear them saying, "We've got 3 more rooms to Prep before the next guests arrive. Rooms plural. Interesting. But the funniest part, Karen actually had a fake. No vacancy sign in her window like it. Was a roadside motel. I couldn't believe it. Miss HOA Morality was running an illegal Airbnb, probably on HOA property. You can't make this stuff up. So, I decided to do what any reasonable, slightly annoyed homeowner would do. Investigate. I searched Airbnb listings. In our zip code, filtered by neighborhood photos, and there it was. Cozy suburban retreat near downtown. Managed by Karen. Oh, she wasn't even trying to hide it. Her profile photo was her smiling next to the HOA community pool, the pool that we all pay dues for. Now, I wasn't mad anymore. I was entertained. Karen had just turned her obsession with rules into the funniest cell phone of the year. But I wasn't going to rush things. No, this needed to play out slowly, carefully, and dramatically. If she wanted to report my garage to the county, I was about to report her Airbnb empire to the entire county. And let me tell you, when the county inspectors came back this time, they weren't checking my garage. They had their sights set on Karen's vacation resort. And the look on her face when she realized who tipped them off. Let's just say for once the clipboard didn't save her. The morning the county inspector showed up again felt like karma with a clipboard. I was sitting on my porch sipping coffee, enjoying the calm after weeks of HOA nonsense when that familiar white county truck rolled into the neighborhood. And right behind it was Karen Speed walking down the sidewalk like she'd just been nominated for Neighborhood of the Year. Except, this time, she wasn't the star of the show. She was the target. The inspector didn't even glance at my house. He walked straight past my driveway up Karen's front path and knocked on her door. The way her face froze when she realized it wasn't about me was absolutely priceless. She tried to smile, clutching her clipboard like it was a security blanket. Oh, are you here? About the garage complaint? I have all the documentation ready. The inspector flipped through his folder and said, calm as ever, actually, ma'am, we received reports of unauthorized short-term rentals being operated from HOA property. Are you the manager for this address? The silence that followed was so thick you could have heard her. Ego deflate. Rentals. No, that must be a mistake. I'm the HOA president, she said as if her title was a magic spell. The inspector didn't blink. He held up a printed page, her smiling Airbnb profile right there on paper, complete with her 5-star host badge and photos of our community pool. I swear if embarrassment made noise, you'd have heard a sonic boom. I was hiding behind my hedge pretending to trim bushes, but really I was watching the best reality show of my life. Karen stuttered, waved her hands, and started mumbling about community outreach programs. The inspector raised an eyebrow and said, so you're charging $250 a night for outreach? That one hit like a brick. When they went inside, it only got better. You could see everything through the big front windows. Luggage piled near the door. Welcome baskets labeled guest essentials, and a giant Wi-Fi sign that said, welcome to Karen's place. It looked less like a home and more like a 3-star motel run by denial. The inspector took photos, shook his head, and radioed for backup. I could practically hear Karma laughing. Turns out she wasn't just renting her house. She'd been renting 3 HOA-owned guest houses near the pool. Those were meant for community events, birthdays, and meetings. Karen had taken the keys, changed the locks, and secretly listed them online for months. Whenever anyone asked why the community lounge was closed, she'd say it was under maintenance. Yeah, maintenance paid by the night. By the afternoon, the county had sealed off the pool and the guest houses with bright orange violation Notices. It looked like a construction site of justice. Neighbors started gathering, pretending to walk dogs or water lawns, but really everyone wanted front row seats. Even old Mr. Jenkins brought out a lawn chair and whispered, "Told you that woman was shady." That night, the HOA board called an emergency meeting. Every seat was full. People were recording with their phones, whispering like they were at a courtroom. Drama. Karen walked in looking like she hadn't slept in days, holding her trusty clipboard as if it still meant something. She tried to start the meeting, but the vice president cut her off and projected her Airbnb listing on the screen behind her. You could literally hear gasps across the room. The treasurer stood up and read out the financial records. All the Airbnb payments had gone straight to her personal account. She tried to claim she was raising funds for the community, but the vice president calmly asked, then, why didn't the HOA receive a single cent? That shut her down instantly. You could feel the room shifting. People who used to fear her were suddenly laughing under their breath. Someone in the back even clapped when the inspector walked in to confirm the violations. The same guy she'd called on me a week earlier was now sitting there writing notes about her. Karen's face turned red. Her voice started shaking and she began ranting about ungrateful neighbors and a conspiracy. It was pure meltdown mode. Finally, the vice president called for a vote. Every single hand went up to suspend her from the HOA presidency. Not one person defended her. She stormed out, threatening lawsuits and revenge, but nobody followed. The queen had officially lost her crown. By the next morning, county officials had issued fines for zoning violations, unlicensed rentals, and misuse of HOA property. The total amount could have bought her a new house somewhere far, far away, preferably where nobody knew what an HOA was. Her bank accounts tied to the HOA were frozen pending investigation, and the county ordered an audit of her entire term as president. For the first time in years, the neighborhood felt peaceful. People were smiling again. Kids were playing near the pool without being yelled at for violating community noise policy. And even the mailman looked happier. Karen, meanwhile, stayed inside with her curtains shut, probably writing angry letters to herself. I thought it was all over. A clean ending to a beautiful tale of karma. But I should have known better. Because Karen doesn't just give up. No. She was about to do something so dramatic, so over the top that it made everything before look like a warm-up act. And that's when things got truly wild. Just when the neighborhood thought it was finally free from the chaos, Karen made her come back. You'd think after being fined, suspended, and publicly humiliated, she'd lay low, maybe take up gardening or yoga. But no, Karen doesn't retreat. She reloads. 2 weeks later, she filed a lawsuit against the HOA. Yes, a lawsuit. Her claim, emotional distress and defamation. The irony could have powered the street lights. She showed up at the next HOA meeting, not as president, but as her own lawyer. She wore a power suit too, sizes too small, and carried a briefcase. Like she'd just watched one episode of Law and Order and decided she was qualified. She started reading this dramatic statement about being wrongfully accused and having her reputation destroyed by malicious neighbors. Everyone just stared, speechless, trying not to laugh. Then she tried to submit her evidence. It was a stack of printed Yelp reviews from her Airbnb listing. She said they proved she was providing a valuable community service. One review literally said, "Nice place. Love the pool. Wish the host wasn't always watching us from her car." The vice president actually snorted out loud. The HOA's actual attorney, a calm, gay-haired guy named Miller, stood up and said, "Karen, do you realize you can't sue the HOA for enforcing the same bylaws you wrote? You could practically hear the gears grinding in her head. She froze, blinked, and said, "Well, that's unconstitutional." Miller sighed and replied, "Ma'am, you're not the government." The room burst into laughter. It was the most entertaining HOA meeting we'd ever had. But she wasn't done embarrassing herself yet. In her desperation, Karen started digging through her old HOA emails to find something, anything to prove she was innocent. Instead, she uncovered her own nightmare. Hidden in those old files were receipts, tax forms, and payment logs from her Airbnb side hustle. Apparently, she hadn't been paying taxes on any of it. She accidentally forwarded the entire folder to the HOA board, thinking she was sending proof of transparency. Within hours, the county's tax department had those files. And when they realized she'd earned over 50 grand in unreported income, things got serious. Very serious. A week later, early morning, I was outside watering my lawn when I saw 2 black SUVs and a county enforcement van roll into the neighborhood. My first thought was no way. But yes, Karen's house again. This time it wasn't just code enforcement. It was the county tax investigators. They knocked once, and when nobody answered, they walked right in with a warrant. Karen ran out in her robe, shouting about violations of privacy and citizens' rights. While the officers calmly went about their work, neighbors started gathering again, phones recording. One guy whispered, "This is better than Netflix." The officers came out carrying boxes of files, computers, and what looked like her beloved clipboard tagged as evidence. It turned out she'd been funneling money not just from Airbnb, but also from HOA event funds she'd managed. Thousands of dollars. Unako untet vor. Sesame woman who fined people for leaving their trash cans out a day early was running an entire side business off community money. When the news hit the county website, it spread fast. Local headlines read, "HOA president under investigation for rental and tax fraud." She tried to claim it was all a misunderstanding. But you can't really misunderstand 53 nights of paid bookings and a bank account labeled Karen's guest fund. The funniest part: during the raid, an officer found a framed photo on her wall with a quote that said, "Integrity is doing the right thing when no one is watching." I think even the officers had to hold back a laugh. After that day, Karen disappeared for a while. Rumor has it she moved in with her sister out of town while dealing with the fallout. The county fined her. The IRS came knocking, and the HOA permanently banned her from holding any position on the board. The neighborhood finally exhaled. And my garage, still perfectly legal, still full of boxes, and now proudly decorated with a new sign I made myself: Visual Pollution Headquarters. Every time I see it, I smile because it reminds me of the day karma rolled up in a county truck and parked right on Karen's lawn. Sometimes justice doesn't need a courtroom. Sometimes it just needs a nosy neighbor who picks the wrong garage to mess with. And honestly, I couldn't have written a better ending if I tried. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Every single subscription motivates me to bring you even more exciting and dramatic HOA stories. And don't forget to tap the bell icon so you never miss a new upolak. I'll see you in the next story, where justice gets even more satisfying.